Real life street stars. You know what time it is.
So, what advice would you give, Jack, to those people in the industry that are faced with things like what Shannon Sharpe is going through, what Diddy has gone through? It seems like
Better turn
Cassie
your
gave.
life over to God.
There you go.
That's what y'all gotta do. Y'all gotta stop praying and lusting after these demagogues. Like, didn't y'all hear what happened to the nature man? I didn't even know. I didn't know
Yeah,
about what was going on with Ligia. I didn't know
yeah,
he was struggling with his God complex.
Right. He was stabbed 9 times.
That's what happens when you play with God. That's what happens when you play with God. I don't feel
yeah.
sorry for him at all. Not after everything he did to those kids, those babies, trying to trick those people into believing he was some kind of deity when the only thing he was a.
Yeah,
That's what
and
the
you just
Jigga
said
Man
something
done.
earlier. You had mentioned consent, like, and you when we spoke on Shannon Sharpe and the child. Yes, it's consent, but it's from a child though. So, is it really consent when? Because that's what Legio said. Everyone was okay with what was going on, but you're dealing with
No.
fragile minds.
Period. Mind control, financial control, spiritual control. To get someone to believe that a human being could ever take the place of God, that's just beyond crazy work. It's beyond. They're defying the will of God, and they're all going to suffer. They're going to suffer.
Jack, do you feel we're in the end of days with the way, like, with robots, AI, identity crisis with humans, and the overpopulation? I
I
mean, do
seen
you
a
feel?
robot working in the store earlier today. I seen a robot before I came in. I had to go run in the store. Remember I told you we got to go run in the store? Guess what? Robot in there. I like to kick it.
Oh, damn.
I don't trust them robots. A
Yeah,
robot
I'm
can't
like,
hear the voice of God. How about that? A robot cannot hear the voice of God. A robot cannot acquiesce to the presence and the spirit of God. It only responds to who's programming it. And now with AI getting smarter than human beings, y'all worried about a lot of things. You ain't worried about what's coming. Maybe y'all need to start watching movies like The Terminator and The Matrix again. Maybe it's time y'all should really do that.
yeah, there's a show called Black Mirror that shows how
Mhm.
technology could go left, and how humans could create a god complex based on having
And
control
guess
over.
what? That was already discussed in The Terminator and The Matrix. In The Terminator, they had this thing called Skynet. And Skynet had gotten so smart that it decided that humanity was no longer equipped to run itself. Those Waymos, how in God's name do people put their children in those and not get charged for endangerment and neglect? Somebody said, "Oh well, everything is And they're being monitored, and yeah, except for if it gets hacked. What if you put your child in a Waymo and it gets hacked? Then what? But you gonna sit on 2020 and cry? 60 minutes? You put more faith in an object than you do in God, and you put your children in there? People funny to me, G. It's like they want to be victims.
Wow.
Meanwhile, they took all of the roots and everything. You know, I was shocked when someone that I trust sat down and was explaining to me how they designed the whole Waymo system. See, all these years, human beings have been running out in the streets, and they've been Lyft driving and Uber driving and car sharing and all of that. Those companies that you work for collected all the data: how you drove, how you didn't drive, if you drive well, if you don't do this, if you don't do that. And they took all of that and they programmed it and they put it into these Waymos. So now they don't need you no more. They just use you to do the work.
Yeah, I'm curious, Jack. Do you ever press those on the phone when it asks, "Hey, can we track your movements on this
Hell
app?
no.
Can we?"
Hell no.
Yeah, they seem to want to
But what?
collect data on all of us.
That's all they do is collect data on us. Everywhere. Every app. Everything you download. Anytime somebody calls me up telling me I gotta download something, the first thing that I do is remember I don't need to talk to them no more, and make sure I block that app by all means necessary. Just like when Jesse Smollett wanted me to download Signal so we could talk on Signal. And I did my research. It's government manipulation there. Monitoring. Isn't that odd?
It's more odd that Jussie Smollett wanted you to download Signal to talk.
Yeah. And wanted to set up a private meeting with me.
Boy.
That's why I gave him 5 days to make sure he wasn't completely full of crap before I released the whole thing on my pod series. And I got new pods coming out on Jaguar Wright Uncensored. Tomorrow, we will be unveiling my conversation with Stone Paxton about his relationship with Angie Stone and everything that he tried to gaslight me into believing wasn't true about what was going on. It's going to be an 8-part series.
So much needed.
We talked a bit.
Much needed. No, so,